Hey honeys, welcome back to my channel. We have a whole baby now, and today I am here to talk a little bit about my birth and labour story. This is something that I have been getting so many questions on, and baby girl Aahana is currently asleep. I am keeping my fingers crossed that she sleeps for a little while whilst I record this. I've just fed her, changed her, she is ready for a nap. And let's talk about the birth and delivery story. So, I'm going to need some water for this one, but I just wanted to let you all know, if you are currently pregnant, this is a positive experience in my opinion of my labour and delivery story, and I wanted to share it with you. So where do I start? Now, of course, I have been sharing and have shared my entire pregnancy very transparently on my social media. So even though last year I went through a miscarriage, this for us is our rainbow baby girl Aahana, and I love her so much. And it's amazing to be here now, but that initial part of pregnancy, it was tough because pregnancy after loss is something that not many people prepare you for, or you don't see a lot about on social media. So I have spoken about that even on like my pregnancy highlight, and now just being here and having her here is crazy. Like sometimes I look at her in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh my god, you're my baby, oh my god, we made it here, like you did this. And it's a lovely experience basically. So when it came to this pregnancy, I had low papa A. I don't know if anyone has heard of that, but it's basically, I believe, where there's not enough nutrients getting into the placenta. So from 16 weeks onwards I was taking aspirin, and because of that, the doctors that I spoke to told me they didn't want me to go past 40 weeks, so I would have to get induced at 40 weeks. But in my birth plan I had written that I actually wanted a natural birth. I wanted to go towards a water birth, and that is just something I've always wanted, even in my first pregnancy. So I still kept that mindset, and I was like, I really hope that I'm able to go towards a water birth. Personally, I didn't really want to get induced, but when I was speaking to the doctors, they threw words at me, you know, like stillbirth and stuff like that, which as someone who's already experienced loss made me really nervous. So I was just like, okay, cool, like if they are saying that induction is the best thing to do at 40 weeks, then that's fine. So I was trying to encourage labour to come on before my induction date. So anyway, let's jump to the birth and delivery story. So 40 weeks approaches. We are at the 17th. We are on the 17th of, was it the 17th or the 18th? My brain does not work right now. Sleep deprivation is real with a newborn. Okay, so basically we're on, I believe, the, oh yeah, so it must have been the 18th of September. 18th of September, Monday. Hold on, I'm gonna double check. I don't trust myself at this point. When was the, yeah, oh my god, okay, I'm right. The 18th of September was my induction date. Woke up, we had an appointment letter, I went to the induction. Now we walk in and the lady says to us, this letter was sent by mistake, we don't have anyone coming here for an induction by appointment. And she was like, the most I can offer for you today is you come in later on this evening for your induction, because we'll have space then, because they didn't have any beds available. And she was like, but the most I can offer you right now is another sweep. So I had already had a stretch and sweep the week before, but it did nothing. And I was like, do you know what, I'll take the sweep again. Let's have a go, let's see if anything happens. So I have the sweep, and this might be a bit of TMI. By the way, this entire video is going to be very TMI, just to let you know. So in case you're not into that stuff, you might want to jump out here. But I had the stretch and sweep, and the lady during the stretch and sweep said to me, if you want my best advice, to go into natural labour after a stretch and sweep, because that's what I wanted to do, I didn't want to get induced. She said, go home, have sex and exercise and go on a walk. And I was like, okay. And she was like, go home, have sex multiple times if you can. Now I'm gonna be honest, throughout this pregnancy, I know that sometimes they say that pregnancy makes you feel a lot more frisky, but I was not, okay? Not at all. And especially towards the end, I couldn't even see my own feet. I couldn't even pick something up. Like, doing the deed was the last thing on my mind. However, we did it. Okay, so came home, stretch and sweep, did the deed. I was like, I'm getting a workout in, and I actually uploaded the workout that I did on my social media, so you have to go check it out. For those of you who don't know, I'm also pre and postnatal qualified, so I knew exactly the exercises that I was doing in the 3rd trimester to actually help me and the things that were safe and fine to do. So did the workout, and from that moment I was like, okay, I am starting to feel contractions. I called up the hospital and they were like to me, okay, come in tonight 8 p.m, you know, we're gonna have a bed for you. I was like, great. So here's me going in with the thought that I'm gonna end up getting an induction, but my labor process basically kind of started naturally anyway, which was a really good thing because I didn't want to get induced. Not that I think inductions are a bad thing, but I just personally didn't want to. I wanted to go into it as naturally as possible because I also wanted to go towards a water birth and give birth at the birth centre in the hospital that I was in rather than at the labour ward. So yeah, and then went to the hospital. We had a bed. It was very uncomfortable actually. We were in just like, it was basically before the labour ward. In the hospital that I'm in, there was like another suite, and in there they have all the inductions. So it was basically a room, there were 3 other beds, 3 other patients, and it was just divided by a curtain. There was my bed and a chair for my partner, and at this point you know, we were just sitting in the bed waiting for something to happen because my contractions had already started. I was waiting to see if the contractions were picking up. They said that a doctor was going to come over to me and basically give me a breakdown on what they were going to do in terms of the induction process, whether we were going to go for the induction or not. But that took the whole night basically. So the whole night, and the next morning a doctor came at like 6 a.m. However, I did tell the doctor that my contractions had already started, so they said, okay, well, instead of going down the induction route, let's see if your contractions pick up. And there's me, I was literally sitting there praying that my contractions would pick up. I kept leaving the ward as well to step outside of the hospital, and me and my partner would do curb walking. We went on long walks. We were like, okay, we need to like just focus on getting this baby out naturally, because that was my goal, that was the experience that I wanted. So yeah, a little bit of time passes now, and you know, I've had the hospital food, went for the jacket potato a few times. I feel like it's a safe option. If you are going to the hospital and you are pregnant, please go for the jacket potato. It is a very good option when it comes to hospital food. So yeah, in the hospital bed now, contractions are picking up, but I'm timing them right. I was timing them on the contraction timer, and they were going from like 3 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, and then all of a sudden like 10 minutes apart. So I couldn't really tell what was a real contraction and what was like Braxton Hicks, because it all did feel quite intense, but the timings were just messed up. Like with normal contractions, they should just like, you know, get shorter and shorter and shorter, and these weren't. And then they also put the monitor around me to basically monitor the contractions and the space in which they were coming, and there just wasn't any consistency. But the hospital was so patient, and they were just like to me, like, you can wait it out, we'll just see how it goes. So we're now on Tuesday. By Tuesday night, my contractions did pick up, and they were shorter in terms of like the amount of timing, but not like super short. They were like, I'd say like 6 minutes in between. At this point they said to me that, Keisha, you don't need to go for an induction because you've already passed that point. You are going into natural labour, it's just taking a bit of time. So I was like, amazing. So can I go to the birthing centre? And they said, yes, you can. Now the birthing centre in the hospital that I'm in is different to the labour ward. At the birthing centre there are midwives, you get a room, you have like a water birth option there, and a bed and all of that. So I was like, yes, that is amazing. So they were able to accommodate us, and they actually sent us down to the birthing center. We actually got a postpartum room initially because they were just waiting to see if my contractions would pick up. And this is where things got frustrating. So Tuesday night we got into the room. I'm getting contractions, and they were painful to me because of course I've never experienced this extent of contractions before. So I had my TENS machine out, I had my TENS machine on my back. I was like staggering the way that I was using different parts of equipment that I bought for labour. So I had my TENS machine, I had a medicine ball. So at this point, Tuesday evening, I've now got my TENS machine on. So every time I'm getting a contraction, I'm pressing it. And it is distracting me to an extent, but I'm still feeling the pain. I had only taken paracetamol at that point as any kind of pain relief. I am not a big like medication type of person, so that is really like all I wanted to take. So I had only taken paracetamol, and I think they gave me one paracetamol tablet and a codeine tablet because the pain was picking up. I also went and sat in the bath. They had a bathtub in our room, so I went and ran the bath. I was like, okay, hopefully this is going to help me, you know, dilate even further. My waters hadn't even broken at this point. And then it is now early hours of Wednesday morning, like 4 AM. And I start noticing that these contractions are actually getting longer apart. So I'm like, what on earth do I do now? Like, do we just go home? Because at this point, it could be me just being in really long labour, because I've been in the hospital since basically Monday. It is now Wednesday early hours of the morning. I am still getting contractions, sometimes maybe 10 minutes apart, sometimes 6 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes. And it's just so random and it's so painful. But could this be another week of waiting for baby girl Aahana, or could this be, you know, a few hours? At this point, we really didn't know. At this point, I was also considering just being taken up to the labour ward and being like, can you just C-section me, or can you just give me the strongest drug that you have to induce labour or break my waters, because my waters hadn't broken. So we spoke to one of the midwives there, and she even said, she was like, look, the way that it's going right now, it doesn't look like you're going to end up going into labour. Why don't you guys just go home? And we said, yeah, we totally agree. I would much rather go through this phase of labour in my own comfort and in my own space than in the hospital. Even though like the postpartum room was really nice, I was just like, I just really want to be in my own comfortable environment, especially if I'm in this much pain. So Wednesday afternoon now, we're getting up, we're getting ready to leave home. I am literally, yeah, I'm literally getting up and getting ready to go home, and my partner's just left the room. I stand up from the medicine ball because I've just had another contraction. I stand up from the medicine ball and my waters just break. And I was like, right, that is not me peeing myself. I can tell the difference, and my waters have definitely broken. It does not feel like you're peeing yourself. It feels like there has just been a big gush of water that's come out of I don't even know where. And it was all over like the floor and my legs, and I was just like, oh my god, is this like really happening just as we're about to leave the hospital? So yeah, I called my partner back. I was like, Brad, my waters are broken. And then the midwife came in and she was like, yep, you're not going home now, because this means, you know, it can happen at any point, like in the next 24 hours, and it should happen at any point in the next 24 hours. So yep, we then stay in the room. My contractions at this point ramp up. The pain, I can't explain it. I think last year when I had the miscarriage, I went through my miscarriage at home, and I literally ended up seeing, you know, the little embryo in my hand, and that pain and those contractions were painful, but I hadn't felt pain like this before. Like, it was very intense, to the point that I did do a hypnobirthing course, so I was breathing through all of it, but that too was tough, like reminding yourself to be like, and then constantly, I feel like was really difficult, especially while you're in the moment. So yeah, so she's sleeping, she's still asleep. Sorry, I'm distracted. There she is. Aahana is really like a face toucher. She's like always like touching her hair and touching her face, or she will be literally sitting down and she'll be like this, or she'll be like this, or she'll be like this, and it's so funny. Like, she is an absolute madam. Okay, be right back. Did you guys hear that cry? Turns out I just had to go and pick her up because she just didn't want to be in her cot. So yeah, this lovely little girl loves comfort. So where was I? I'm trying to think. My contractions are getting a lot closer in time now, and they were so painful. I'm still using the TENS machine, but I kid you not, I was losing hope with that because there's only so much distracting that you can do, and the TENS machine kind of, to me, feels a bit like little scratches on your back, or like, I don't know, like little tiny little electric shocks that aren't distracting enough. I put my TENS machine on the full setting. I was like, give me the pain. At the same time, I was like pinching myself, I was digging my nails in my hands because I was just trying to remove my mind from the pain of the contractions. So yeah, at this point now the contractions are building up. We go ahead and basically move into the birthing center room, and the first question that I asked her for the birthing center, because I think at that point I was in so much pain, I was like, do you have any stronger painkillers like the epidural? And she was like, no, we don't do epidural on the birthing center. And I was like, yes, that's right, you guys don't. And I made the decision to be at the birthing center. I kid you not, still a really good decision. I do not regret it one bit, but I think at that point it was just the pain talking and me wanting some sort of strong painkiller. By then my contractions were like 2 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, so very close together, and I was breathing through it. I'm gonna include a little video here of the birthing center room that I actually gave birth in. It was such a beautiful room. You walk in there, hello, hi, you're okay. Okay, and that is a little glimpse into life with a newborn. I just dropped her off with her daddy, but yeah, I'm gonna explain what the birthing center room looked like. So you walk in, there is like a jacuzzi, hot tub, water pool, bath, or obviously it's not a jacuzzi or a hot tub, I don't know why I'm saying that, but it looks like a hot tub jacuzzi, but it is like the water bath pool just on like the back corner. And then there's a bed, but the bed is super comfy and cozy. It's made of like pillows, and it's not like a hospital bed, it's like an actual bed. And that's on the side, and that's pretty much it. That's it in the room. And there was like fairy lights all around, so it was just a really relaxing and calming aesthetic overall. And then we went in. All I remember at this point was I was wearing my baby girl pajama top, and I remember at that point being like, I am in so much pain, I do not care who is looking at me right now, because I was also in so much pain, but I was also feeling very hot, and I had like this bearing down sensation to push. And I didn't start pushing then because my midwife did say do not push, because she wanted to obviously make sure that I was dilated enough at that point. But she was just saying like, just work through the contractions. If that means that you sit in the pool and work through the contractions, just work through them. And that really helped me, because all I was doing at that point, I was breathing in for 4, so I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathing out for 8. And it really helped. I think my breathing technique helped me the most in the whole of this labor. What I'm about to tell you now is the length of time that I was pushing for, because Aahana's position was basically, she was back to back, so like sunny side up, a few weeks back. Then when we went for our next scan, she actually ended up changing position. She was in the right position. Then when I was actually checked in the birthing center just to see like where her position seems like you just feel your tummy, she was actually to the side. So again, she wasn't in the right position, but obviously I had to push through it because my body was sending me into labor at this point. I pushed for about 2 hours. So this is not including the contractions, this is just the time of pushing. I think I must have done roughly, and my partner says it as well because he was there holding my hand, like coaching me through all of it the whole time. He said that I think I must have pushed for around like 65-70 times minimum, and that being like taking a deep breath in and just pushing. There were times where I was in the pool. Sorry, I know I'm jumping in and out, but that's because this whole experience, like the way it's still processing in my head is a little bit blurry. I remember it because it's still so fresh, but the parts that I remember it in are not chronological. So yeah, basically I remember being in the pool and I remember my midwife being like, okay, are you having another contraction? Yes. I'd be like, yes, and then I'd be pushing. But a little bit before that, I feel like I'm explaining this like a literal spider's web, but a little bit before that, before I even started pushing or before I was even allowed to push, I said to her, I was like, what painkillers can you offer me on the birthing center? And she was like, we can give you pethidine, which is an injection in your leg. However, if you're past a certain, like if you're dilated a certain amount, you cannot have the pethidine because it can slow down the heart rate of baby. So I was really hoping that I was not that dilated because I was in so much pain, even though I'm not someone who goes for you know, like medication and stuff. At that point I was just like, you know what, forget it, give it to me, give it all to me, whatever you have access to. And let me actually Google pethidine. Okay, yeah, so pethidine is an opioid pain relief, and yeah, it can help reduce labor pain in childbirth apparently. However, when she went to go and check how much I was dilated, she was like to me, Keisha, you're 7 centimeters dilated, we cannot give you the pethidine. And at that point I was like, right, do you know what, I've just got to put my warrior hat on and I've got to push through it. As a person, as an individual, my pain tolerance is naturally quite high. I don't know why, it just is. My dad has really high pain tolerance as well. So I was just like, do you know what, you've just got to power through this. And I did put myself into that mindset. It was tough, but having my partner there, he literally was with me the whole time, like staring into my eyes, holding my hand, telling me I've got this, telling me I can do it. Like he was even counting down every time I was breathing in, you know, every time I was having a contraction I was breathing out. That I think helped me more than anything. I did also have access to gas and air, so I was taking the gas and air, and I thought that was so helpful. The gas and air didn't make me like laugh or like anything loopy like that, but what the gas and air did do was it kind of like, if I don't know if you've ever been high before or anything like that, it kind of like sped up but slowed down time. It was really odd. So I did feel a little bit out of it. When I got into the pool to start pushing, I pushed in every position you can think of. I went into a deep squat, I went into a lunge, I went into like literally holding myself over the edge of the tub and just like basically like sitting back into it and just pushing. That bearing down sensation, you'll know it when you feel it when you're in labor, but it's like you can't not push. So that's what I was doing, just in between contractions, really holding my breath and pushing. All I remember is my partner trying to give me some Lucozade and give me some water, because basically I didn't eat all day either. Like when you're going through the contractions, or at least when I was, my appetite was so low because I just felt sick. Like from the pain I felt nauseous, so I was basically I didn't eat in the day. Do not recommend. I do suggest eating because you will have more energy than I did. She also noticed that I had, I'm trying to remember, basically they like test your urine like in between when you're in labor on the birthing center. I don't know if it's the same in other places, but she mentioned that I had something, I'm trying to remember, something in my urine that basically said that I was extremely dehydrated and I hadn't eaten. Ketones, that's the word. I had ketones in my urine, and she was like, you need to eat something, like you need to drink some Lucozade or something. So I literally had bourbon biscuits there, I had Lucozade, and my partner was trying to shove it down my mouth, and I remember I was like, I'm not having it, because I'm in the water, I'm in pain, I'm pushing, and the last thing you want is to eat something or to drink something. But what kept happening was, because I was pushing and my body was expelling so much energy to just push, I was pretty much passing out in the water in between pushes. So he kept trying to like hold my head up and make sure that obviously I don't pass out in the water, because that can be dangerous. So yeah, I did get that Lucozade down me at some point. I don't even remember how many times I pushed. I pushed so much that postpartum I genuinely had a fear of even just going to the toilet, because I had pushed so much. I didn't want to push anything out there, as funny as that sounds now. So yeah, I basically got to the point where I was like, are we seeing her head? Is anything happening? I'm now maybe like 50 pushes in. I don't know, I wasn't counting. My partner's giving me a rough number. But this is when we were like, she was like, okay, like we're seeing something, we're seeing the head. And I was like, thank God. I cannot tell you, I have never felt more grateful in my life. However, Miss Aahana decides to do things her own way. So her head is like coming out, but because she's in the wrong position, my lovely little girl, her head keeps going back up. So because of, obviously she was kind of back to back, every time she came out she went back up. So I had to push, I had to keep going, I had to keep pushing. And the midwife did tell me, and this is why I genuinely, like, hats off to every single midwife out there. Like, I'm genuinely gonna cry, like, even just saying this, but like their knowledge, their experience to tell you that, do you know what, just keep going for it. Because, well, this is what she said to me. She goes, Keisha, keep pushing, because there will be a point where her head will come, but it won't go back up, okay? And she put that in my mind, and I was like, do you know what, I'm gonna trust the process. And I was like, okay. So I kept pushing, I kept pushing, I kept pushing, and there did come a point. I actually came out of the bathtub at this point. They got me the birthing chair. The birthing stool is basically like a stool that's like a U shape, and you sit on it, and then obviously like there's like an opening at the bottom so the baby can come out of your vagina. So even though I wanted a water bath, it did go that way, but I just had to keep trying different positions to try and get her out. So it wasn't really working in the water as much. So I sat on the birthing stool, and at this point I'm sitting there, I'm pushing, okay? I literally felt like I was on the toilet. I was sitting there, I'm pushing, and her head like started coming out. She put a mirror there, and I saw like her head starting to come out. And at this point I was like, oh my God, like literally it was like an alien. And I was also shocked, because I was like, no way did my vagina hole just open that much, but it does. And then her head started coming out, and I was pushing. It did take a while. I then ended up having to move to the bed, because the birthing stool could only do so much for me. I moved to the bed. I got in the most weirdest position to get my baby girl out. So I'm just gonna, do you know what, I'm just gonna describe it to you guys. So I'm on the bed now. My one leg is straight and one leg is all the way up. So I'm basically doing a lunge in mid-air, and I was pushing. Being a brown girl, I don't think my face has ever gone red. I know that my face was red. Like, I felt like it was hot. My partner was there, he was holding my hand. I'm on the gas and air now, and I did that like one final push, and once her head was out, that one final push, her body just came out, and I just remember that moment being like like a big like deep breath out. Yeah, and my partner was like to me, like the first thing I said was just like, give me my baby. And they put her on my chest. Unfortunately they only put her on my chest for a little bit, just until so we decided to do delayed cord clamping. So they put her on my chest, and they waited for the cord to stop pulsating, and then my partner cut the umbilical cord. And I remember feeling her, it was like she was just felt so slippery and so fragile, and I was like, oh, I can't tell you, it was all the emotions, every single emotion ever. Now that I'm like talking about it, I think this is the first time I've spoken about it in this much depth, and it's like hitting me. But yeah, just a beautiful, scary experience. But I would do all of that all over again just for her. Like, I'd do it 100 times. I'd do it without the paracetamol and the gas and air, just to meet her. But yeah, so once she came out, I passed her to my partner, who was sat right next to me. He did skin to skin because I needed stitches. Now, for those of you who've seen on my Instagram, I was using the Annie ball from I was using the Annie ball from I think 27 weeks onwards. This is like a little balloon that you practice, you put into your vagina. It helps strengthening your perineum, and it helps with your muscles over there. So that's what I was using, and here is where the kicker is, okay? I got 3 second-degree tears, not in my perineum. I got 3 second-degree tears on my labia. If you know the diagram of a vagina, I can add it over here, and I will literally tell you the labia is where I got my tears. Great experience, because after that my partner was then holding on to, is she sleeping? Okay, so yeah, after basically giving birth, I ended up getting 3 second-degree tears down there, and it took 2 hours to stitch up. I know it sounds like such a long time, it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. Like, that's literally what the midwife said. She said that because the tears they were such awkward tears. I suppose any tears down there are going to be awkward, but they were in such an awkward way that it took a while to stitch up. And they do use local anesthetic, or they did on me before they did the stitches, so I didn't feel anything. But what I did feel was like the threads like going in and out. But again, I was in awe. Like, I was just looking up, and I was looking at Brad holding Aahana, and I was just looking at them, and I was really gaping down on the gas and air when she was putting the local anesthetic in. So she did those stitches. I'm still so happy, and I'm so surprised that I had no tears on my perineum. So I highly recommend the Annie ball, but you definitely cannot guarantee no stitches elsewhere. That is something that I wasn't expecting, and that's something that I didn't see about or read about getting tears anywhere else. I thought that you could only get tears in your perineum, but clearly you can get them elsewhere too. And after giving birth, I had such an adrenaline rush that I didn't really feel anything for the next 24 hours, like no pain or whatsoever. But then I kid you not, 24 hours, bang on the dot, since Aahana's been born, the pain kicked in. I think postpartum, coming home, I could barely walk. Like, these stitches were in such an awkward place, because if you're, you know, a girl, you can imagine like when you wear your underwear, if you have stitches down there, obviously stitches in your perineum, they're like inside, they're hidden away, so they have space to heal. But these stitches were so much on like the surface of like my labia that like underwear itself would be like rubbing, and like my postpartum underwear was like rubbing and my postpartum underwear. Postpartum underwear is not flattering whatsoever, but yeah, that was rubbing, and you know, the materials are not the best, and it was just painful. Yeah, I was taking paracetamol and ibuprofen every 4 hours. After that, the midwife said it's fine to take even while I was breastfeeding. But yeah, that overall is my labor and delivery story. So yeah, I had a completely unmedicated natural birth. I had gas and air only. It was an experience, I'll tell you that. But right now, like, I feel great for it. I feel like my recovery has been good. It's been exactly 2 weeks and my brain doesn't work. Hold on, I need to get the calendar out. It's been exactly 2 weeks and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. It's been exactly 2 weeks and 6 days since Aahana has been born now, and my labia is healed, my stitches are dissolved. I am feeling good. I have been breastfeeding, I've been pumping, because I have flat nipples and it was really hard to latch Aahana on for me. I did get nipple shields, which actually helped a little bit, but I realized that I actually prefer pumping, so that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna be feeding Aahana using a bottle. The pumping journey is going well. I'm sure you might have seen this on my Instagram stories, but yeah, I really can't believe, even now, like even now, nearly like 3 weeks Aahana's been here, I still can't believe that I'm here. It's nuts. There's a lot of hormonal changes going on. I definitely have experienced baby blues to some extent as well, and I've had days where sometimes I'll just be randomly crying and I'll be like, why am I crying? There's nothing wrong besides from sleep deprivation, of course, but I'm just not understanding it, and I think that's gonna take time. That's just changes in my hormones, and it's okay. Just giving myself grace during this time. You know, my partner's doing exactly the same. We're working as a team as much as we can to help give Aahana an amazing first few weeks and months on planet Earth, and we're gonna hopefully make this journey really lovely for her. I also hope that I can get a lot more consistent here on YouTube with all these videos, because personally, like, even just sharing it with all of you, but also just like recording this stuff for myself and for our new little family to see as they grow up, as Aahana grows up, and you know, in the future, if and when she has siblings, they can see the stuff as well. I think it would be amazing. But yeah, I also did a Q&A on my Instagram, and I said that I would be answering a bunch of questions for this YouTube video. So, did you get an epidural? No, I did not. I had a completely natural birth. Did you experience anything discriminatory? Why can't I say that word? Did I experience anything like that? No, I didn't. I had a great experience. Midwives were amazing. I gave birth at a hospital local to me, and yeah, they were just amazing, like from the get-go. Everyone was very loving, welcoming. I never felt shy or ashamed. I suppose when you're in labor, you do not care who is seeing you, who is seeing what you are doing. All you want to do is get your baby here safely, happily and healthily, and that's literally the emotions that I personally experienced. Was birth as scary and as painful as they say it is? I'm due soon. Scary, I wouldn't say scary. Because I had a natural birth, I feel like as I got closer to getting to that pushing point, my body knew what it was doing, and I hope that that is something that you experience too. But for me personally, it wasn't scary. Painful? Yes, I found it painful. As someone who has a very high pain tolerance, I found it quite painful. Do I remember that pain now? Am I still going through that pain? Not at all. Like, I feel completely normal. I feel better than how I felt when I was pregnant. My body is not in any pain anymore. I can actually, let me push this back and let me show you like how much my stomach has gone down to. Like, this is, you guys probably remember me like postpartum, before pregnancy, sorry, before postpartum, but like here, like my pregnancy belly was like straight out here, but I suppose like everything's going down quite nicely and getting there. What else? I got a message. Did you get to use the TENS machine? Was it helpful? Yes, and the one tip that I will give you in terms of using the TENS machine would be that try and use the tools that you take with you to give birth. Like, use them in a staggered way, so don't use everything all at once. If you want to use the TENS machine at the beginning, use it at the beginning. I found it helpful at the beginning when I had the contractions initially. There will come a point where your contractions ramp up so much that the TENS machine doesn't really do anything, so I used it in the beginning and it was helpful then. Next question. I'm being induced on Friday and I was wondering if you had any tips for me on how to cope. I hope your induction has gone so well. I know that I'm uploading this a little bit later to when you asked me the question. I didn't end up having an induction, however I did sit next to women in the induction ward who did have inductions, and I would say just, you know, keep yourself hydrated, learn how to do some good breathing techniques, because the one thing that helped me when I was giving birth was breathing techniques, and the one that I stuck with was taking 4 deep breaths in and 8 deep breaths out. Really helped. What pain relief did you use? Literally just paracetamol and 1 tablet of codeine. Things you used most from your hospital bag and what helped you the most? Great question. So, postpartum pads, those helped me a lot. After my water broke, I wore that. The next thing that helped me, well, the next thing that I used was my pajamas. Definitely take a couple pairs of pajamas. You don't know how long you might be staying in there postpartum, so take a couple pairs of pajamas. TENS machine really did help me. Snacks, take some snacks. I would say if you're like me and you don't have the biggest appetite, especially when you're having your contractions, I did eat like a little bit of ice gems. I don't know if you guys remember that snack, but they're like these little biscuits and they've got like a little gem on the top. That had the perfect amount of sugar and the perfect amount of energy that was getting me through like those little bits where I felt a bit faint. So I would suggest that, maybe some biscuits. That's really what helped me. The rest of the things in my hospital bag, I'm trying to think what else I used. Definitely used the slippers whenever I wanted to like take a shower and stuff like that. Trying to think what else. Lucozade, keep some Lucozade in there. That Lucozade really helped me when I was like passing out in the pool. But yeah, I would say all of those things really helped. There are things that I used in my postpartum hospital bag that I've literally used up until like a few days ago. For example, the ice pads, the long maternity pads, all of those things can really help. And then obviously everything in the baby bag we pretty much used, for example nappies, baby grows and stuff like that. So once Aahana was here, we made sure that of course she was staying warm at a good temperature. We did keep formula in the bag just in case, but we didn't end up using it because I was trying to get her to latch on when it came to feeding in that way. So yeah, I think other than that we used pretty much everything, I'd like to say. Was the Aniball helpful in preparing for labor? Yes, get yourself the Aniball, use the Aniball, trust me, it was helpful. Did you have any tearing? If so, what degree? Yes, I had 3 second-degree tears on my labia. Not fun. Anything you would do differently now that you have given birth? Not really, now that I'm thinking about it. Was the birth long? Yes, but that was my personal experience. It doesn't mean everyone's going to experience that. I've had friends who've gone into labor, they've pushed like 6 or 7 times, and you know, if it wasn't for Aahana's position that she was in, I don't think my labor would have been that long. But I think just because she was in an odd position, pushing became very tedious because it just became very, very long for us. And like when she came out, she had swelling on the top of her head as well, because every time she was obviously trying to come out, here she is bashing into the side and going not through the hole. So she had swelling on the top of her head, but that's obviously, it literally went down in a couple of hours of her being out here with us. So yeah, I honestly say it's like personal experience, and just because my labor was super long does not mean yours is going to be. But yeah, let's see. How soon were you able to walk comfortably? Honestly, straight after. I was totally fine to walk comfortably. When I got home, the stitches were very, very painful. So I would say, unless I had taken my paracetamol and Nurofen, it was hard to walk comfortably. But now, being 2 weeks postpartum, like I can walk comfortably. I'm walking even more comfortably than I walked when I was pregnant. So yeah. Is postpartum bleeding really that bad? My postpartum bleeding, it was bad for the first 4 days, and then it actually settled down. I'm not bleeding anymore. It's actually all fine, and now I'm actually paying attention, because obviously, you know, as a PCOS coach, as someone who's managed that PCOS for years, I'm actually paying attention to see what my cycle is going to be like. I really want to pay attention to that, what my androgen levels are going to be like and all of that. So I'm excited, and I'm hopefully going to keep you guys updated on how all of that goes, and also keep an eye out for when I ovulate next and stuff like that. Not because I'm trying for a baby, but because it's just good to get to know your body. Did the TENS machine help you? Yes, it did help me. I am reading all the questions off of here. How do you feel mentally, emotionally and physically post-birth? Okay, mentally. Mentally, I feel tired. I think that's obviously just, you know, getting into a routine with a newborn, at least with Aahana, has been a little bit rough, because, you know, as much as I was expecting sleepless nights, the sleepless nights are real for us. I have definitely been experiencing them with my partner. Emotionally, I feel okay. I have had moments where I've just started crying. I'm not the biggest crier, I'm not gonna lie, but I have started crying randomly, and that's been something that's thrown me off a little bit. Physically, I feel fine. Physically, I feel good. What has been the easiest and the hardest bit? The hardest bit was recovering from the stitches, and the easiest bit, has been loving my baby girl, honestly. But yeah, so I feel like, obviously I have a lot more questions to go through, but I really hope that this experience that I'm sharing with you is something that you're able to, I suppose you're able to take from it, you know, what you will, and recognize that post-birth, postpartum, and as someone who's experienced miscarriage in the past, and this is our rainbow baby, like, there is a lot of hope out there. And I really hope, if you are watching this and you are currently about to go into labor, or you are pregnant, your pregnancy goes really, really smoothly, and your labor and delivery goes really, really smoothly. But yeah, this for me was definitely a positive experience. I'd do it all over again, 100 times over, to meet my baby girl. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I am gonna go now, because I'm sure baby girl is hungry, and I'm gonna go sort out her milk. But yeah, till the next video.